We had an 18-inning game of baseball last night for the World Series. That is 2 entire games of baseball. We got a lot to talk about this week. Let's go ahead and hit that music.
Pat McAfee said today, we got our guy.
How many sixth graders would it take to beat LeBron James in a game? Ready for the ultimate sleepers?
Shedeur Sanders went number 144 in the draft. Welcome back. It is episode 42 of the Single Barrel Sports Podcast. My name is Scott, and we have a different type of an episode this week. As you can see, it is just me doing the episode. Deeb is traveling for work. And so we're going to just go through this. It's going to be a little bit shorter today, but we will have some segments that introduce some of our friends for some picks and things like that. So it's not just me the whole time, but I do want to take the moment here before we dive in to just say that if you're listening to this podcast, regardless of where it's at, please let us know if there are topics that you're very interested in us spending more time on in sports here. It can be any sport. And we're really open to kind of changing formatting or spacing of our podcast here. So if you're a regular listener and there's things that you wish we talked about that we don't, or maybe you spend more time on or less time on, let us know. Now's a really good time to kind of check in and adjust that. But we're going to dive in, like I said, episode 42, very hard to believe. My name is Scott. I have been doing this with Deeb since last November or December now. Kind of crazy, 42 weeks worth of episodes now. And I just wanted to share a couple of updates like we typically do at the beginning of these shows. So in my personal life, we got a lot going on right now. Work has been busy. My wife, Raven, and I are actually listing our home for sale. We're going to buy a new house. And we are taking a vacation this week to Virginia Beach just to get away and let the realtor do what the realtor needs to do. We have a 1.5-year-old baby. We didn't want to worry about nap schedules or being in the way. So we're just taking a quick impromptu trip to the beach, and we'll see. Not used to going to the beach this time of year, but I'm sure it's still going to be a blast, and we'll have a great time. And as I mentioned, my co-host Deeb is not with us this week. He is traveling for work. He's had a very heavy work schedule as well, spending a lot of time traveling here in the fall, but we will miss him. You will likely see parts of him throughout the episode with just some videos that we'll kind of plug in here. But yeah, Deeb, you're missed when you're gone, and we're going to go on with the show. Before we hop into sports, I do want to talk just quickly about some of our social media promotion. We're on every major social media. So whether it's, Facebook, X, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, all of the above, Instagram, if I didn't say that already. If you guys want to find our information, if you want to see our short form content, singlebarrelsports.com. That website has everything. You'll be able to find all of our information there, including a merch store that has shirts, hats, stickers, you name it, all kinds of stuff. And it was always being updated. We'll have a big update for that store here in the next couple of weeks. So again, if you want to engage with us outside of listening to full-length episodes, check out singlebarrelsports.com. Let us know how we're doing. Feel free to comment, hopefully follow or subscribe on there. And just know that we have goals. We're trying to engage with those who really care about sports. We want to have dialogue, and we're hoping to grow our following over time. Okay, enough about the social media here. Let's go ahead and hop into our sports term of the week. And I just want to admittedly say it feels a little bit weird going through all of this solo this week. However, we're going to get through this. Our term of the week this week is clutch. It's a term you hear all the time in sports, like, oh, that guy's clutch, or he sucks in the clutch, or he came in clutch, or that was a clutch shot. You might hear some of these terms throughout your time watching sports. And so what does clutch mean? This is typically what I would ask Deeb here, but I'm going to answer my own question today. Basically, in sports vocabulary, whenever we call a player clutch, that means that in a high pressure or a high stakes moment, that player kind of always comes through, or they're known for coming through in those big moments. Typically, this is like late in the game, maybe where if they make the shot, it will win the game. Or if they miss the shot, they will lose the game. Clutch players make those shots. So growing up, a lot of people always talked about Kobe Bryant being very good in the clutch. When the game was on the line, you wanted the ball in his hands because he was going to hit that three-pointer and the Lakers are going to win the game. That's kind of how the word clutch works. In short, it's performing whenever it matters the most. So being very reliable in those high stakes moments. And just like Deeb typically brings up some history, I did look up a little bit of history about this term because it seems very random. It seems like a mechanical or a car related term. And so I looked, and it actually originated back in the it actually originated in baseball. Basically, the usage of the words in the clutch or in the pinch or in the high pressure moment of the game started to appear in baseball writing, again, back in the 1920s. My research says maybe the first time it appeared was June 2nd in 1929. I know that sounds very specific, but trying to get you the most accurate information possible here. And basically, it said in that moment that When a batter produces a safe blow at an opportune moment, his fellow players say that he has hit in the saddle or in the clutch. And so that's kind of whenever it first originated, way back in 1929. And I think it's fun to talk about moments that we have seen that are clutch. So one of the things that comes to my mind immediately is in the 2011 World Series when the Cardinals were playing in Game 6. They were playing against the Texas Rangers, and they were down in the ninth inning. They came down to their final strike, and then somebody, I can't remember who at this moment in time, it might have actually been David Freese. I think it was in the ninth inning. I think it was David Freese hit a triple and drove in the game-tying runs. So the Cardinals, down to their final out, ended up tying the game and going to the 10th inning. And the 10th inning, they were losing by 1, down to their final out again, and got another RBI that tied it up and went to the 11th inning. And then in the bottom of the 11th inning, big notable moment in sports, David Freese came up to the plate and he hit the game-winning home run and what we would call a very clutch moment. That home run sealed the win for Game 6. It forced a Game 7. The Cardinals won Game 7 then, and the rest was history. They won the World Series. So that was a very clutch moment and something close to my heart, being someone who lived in St. Louis during that time. It was very special to be a big St. Louis Cardinals fan and to see all of that unraveling. So yeah, just a bit of history about a term that maybe you hear a lot of, but you don't always maybe have a great definition for. And that is the term this week, clutch. Let's dive into some stories that we had this past week here. Obviously, there's a whole lot going on. In fact, I'm going to talk about something that happened yesterday on Monday. I'm recording this as of Tuesday. On Monday, yesterday, it was the 32nd time ever that what we call a sports equinox occurred. A sports equinox is when you've got NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL all having games on the exact same day. It was the 5th year in a row that happened, and it actually had MLS as well, so soccer was also playing yesterday. And so just kind of a crazy thing. You could watch Shohei Ohtani in the World Series. At the same time, you could watch Patrick Mahomes on Monday Night Football or Nikola Jokic in the NBA, Sidney Crosby playing in the NHL, unfortunately scoring a goal against my St. Louis Blues, and also seeing the MLS playoffs all occurring on the same day. So big day in sports. We got a lot of stuff kind of happening around this time of year. But let's break down the World Series right now. A huge game happened last night. I talked about this in the intro, but there was an 18-inning marathon that happened between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays, who came into this game tied 1-1 in the series. Some notable things that happened here. First of all, Freddie Freeman had a walk-off home run. So he ended the game. I want to say it was a home run. I'm going to verify that while I keep talking here, actually. But Freddie Freeman had a walk-off. And I will say I couldn't stay up all the way to finish this game because 18 innings was very late into the night there. It was a home run, yes. Anyway, so the Dodgers ended up beating the Blue Jays 6-5. They now lead the series 2-1. But this was the second longest World Series game in history. Obviously, as I said, 18 innings, that's 2 full baseball games in one night. Other notables, other than the Freddie Freeman walk-off home run, we also saw just an incredible performance from Shohei Ohtani. He reached the base all 9 times that he came to the plate. I just want you guys to think about that if you're listening to this right now. It's very rare for someone to reach the base every time they come to the bat in a normal baseball game. Ohtani reached the base 9 times, 9 out of 9. And I'm looking at his stats here, and it's kind of incredible. So he hit a ground rule double first, then he hit a home run, and then another double, and then another home run at his first 4 at-bats. So in 4 at-bats, he had, 12 bases? That's crazy. Like on average, he averaged a triple on all 4 at-bats back to back to back to back. So then the Blue Jays just walked him 5 times in a row after that. So they said, you know what, you can have the base. We're done giving you extra bases. But just an incredible, insane stat. 9 out of 9 times he made it on base. Another big thing happened here. Relief pitcher Will Klein came in. He threw 4 scoreless innings as a relief pitcher. And in his career, he had never thrown more than 2 scoreless innings in a row. So more than doubled his best kind of scoreless stretch of time there. So just a crazy game, historic game. Dodgers have a 2-1 series lead. I know a lot of people probably would prefer to see the Blue Jays maybe win this year just because Dodgers are a big money market team. They just won last year. There's all the reasons, but I think it's really cool to have just kind of a wild marathon type of a baseball game. So either way, we were in for a treat last night. Last week in college football, we talked about coaching vacancies. This week, we have another one. So LSU lost again, and they fired Brian Kelly this week. So another big name college football coach fired midseason. If you guys want to hear more about our conversation about the midseason firings, check out last week's episode number 41. But just add one more big name to the list here. LSU is now without Brian Kelly. There were not as many major upsets this week in college football. What we saw was probably one of the biggest ones was Illinois lost to Washington. Illinois was ranked, Washington was not. Otherwise, it seemed like all of our ranked teams kind of handled their business this week. We did have some ranked teams lose football games, but it was two higher ranked teams. So not a lot of crazy drama to talk about in the college sporting world from last week, but we will get into some big matchups coming up this week here. But let's talk NFL for a minute here. We had a crazy thing happening with the Jets this week. They came out and basically trashed Justin Fields' name. You had the owner talking about Justin Fields and general manager talking about Justin Fields. He was benched. He was not going to start. And then I think it was the day before the game, they came out and said Tyrod Taylor is hurt and Justin Fields is going to start. So after this week of Justin Fields kind of hearing all about his pitfalls and how he wasn't going to start, all of a sudden here we are on Sunday morning, Justin Fields is suiting up and he's playing football. And the crazy thing about it is the Jets won. They got their first win of the season. Justin Fields finally got that weight off of his shoulders. He got a win as a Jet. They beat the Bengals in a very close game, 39-38, which was just kind of a weird, crazy game because the Bengals have also been struggling, but looking a lot better as of recent. But yeah, Jets finally got a W. And I'm curious to hear maybe if anyone wants to comment on that, what they think about this whole Justin Fields situation, because it is bizarre. And where do we go from here now? He played a pretty decent football game. He got a win. Does he start next week or is he going back to being benched? I guess we'll find out. In other news, the Ravens bounced back. They still are without Lamar Jackson, but they had Snoop Huntley step in this time. Instead of Cooper Rush, they had a different quarterback, and they actually won. They beat the Bears, who looked a little bit anemic on offense this week. So we'll see how the Bears bounce back. Caleb Williams had maybe a bit of a down game this week, but I think the Bears are still looking promising compared to recent years, so we'll have to keep following up with that. Speaking of recent years, a team that is looking way better than they have anytime recently, the Patriots continue to roll. Young quarterback Drake May in his sophomore season, continuing to look like an absolute stud, an absolute steal that he fell to where he fell in the draft, although still a first-round pick. You know, a couple quarterbacks went ahead of him. So we will keep following along, but Drake May looks to be the best of the sophomore quarterbacks so far this year. And actually, he looks to be an MVP candidate right now if he can keep up with this pace. We had a major injury this week with the New York Giants. Very sad to see. They've had a lot of swagger. They look like a lot of fun. They're an exciting, up-and-coming young team. And one of the most exciting parts of that team, Cam Skattebo, had an ankle dislocation in a game that he had already scored a touchdown in and was playing pretty well. And so he is going to be out for the year. Very sad to see that because there's been a lot of energy, as I said, a lot of swagger. This team has looked great. It's been a lot of fun to follow along with their journey. Hope he recovers quickly. Want to see Cam Skattebo come back next year and just pick up where he left off. Hoping for the best with that. Let's talk about some of the teams in the NFL right now. We've got the Chiefs and the Packers who have looked hot. Despite the slow start for the Chiefs, both of these teams continue to look dominant, especially as of late, and both having very strong second halves this week. Maybe not looking so good in the first half, but finishing very strong and winning their football games, continuing to look like two of the best teams in football. Teams that haven't looked as good this week, let's go to the Minnesota Vikings. They've had a quarterback carousel of just kind of, you never know who's going to start when. Come to find out that Carson Wentz came into this game, and actually I think last game as well, and he's injured. He had a pretty bad injury this week. He was wearing a pretty crazy brace on his non-throwing arm. Every time that Carson Wentz got hit, it looked like this dude was in so much pain. I can't even imagine why they put him on the field is beyond me because he could barely keep his composure. He was hurting so badly. They killed him. They had JJ McCarthy on the sidelines. He was their emergency quarterback. He was suited up. Maybe he was ready. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe they want to give him more time and he's not as injured, or maybe he is injured and we'll never know. But regardless, they put a very injured Carson Wentz out onto the field. He got obliterated, and his season's done now. He's going to have a surgery. His season's over with. Got a feel for him a little bit. It looked like a very painful day. I'm curious what people think about them playing Wentz like this. I mean, is it irresponsible to play a guy at quarterback that you know is clearly injured and who ended up really, making that injury worse and now needing a season-ending surgery? Let me know. Is this irresponsible, or is this just the nature of football? Another big injury occurred this week, although probably not season-ending. The Broncos. The Broncos keep rolling here. They look amazing. They've had a couple of really big games. They had 5 huge quarters of football in a row, scoring like 70-plus points. But they did have their best defensive player, Patrick Surtain, took an injury, and he's going to be out for at least a few weeks. It's a pectoral strain. I don't think this is going to be a long-term injury, but he is a big cornerstone for that team's defense. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Although they continue to look pretty good even after his injury taking down the Cowboys this week. So maybe they'll be okay. And then lastly, I just have a question to pose here. Are the Colts the best team in football? It seems such a crazy thing to say, but this is a 7-1 football team coming off of just horrible seasons. And you got to just ask the question. I mean, are they the best team in football right now? They have the best record. They put on another dominant performance. Some of the criticisms that I've seen is that they haven't played great offensive teams yet. Surely Tennessee isn't one of those, but they did beat the Chargers, who have been a pretty good team with a great quarterback. So I don't know what criticism still exists out there for the Colts. If you want to criticize them, let us know in the comments. But I actually think they're looking pretty legit. And if they're not the best team in football, they're damn sure up there in the top. You can't really deny a 7-1 team that looks very consistent, really kind of across the board. They don't seem to have a ton of weakness. So I guess we'll keep following this. It keeps feeling like something is going to happen where they just have to, maybe get a little bit of a setback, but at the same time, it hasn't happened yet. So who knows? For the fantasy football updates this week, I'm actually going to ask a question. I'm not going to do a segment on this. I'm going to ask a question, and we're going to have some guests kind of answer this question, and you'll see what they have to say about it. But I want everyone to think about this. We're kind of at the midpoint of the NFL season right now. So if you could redraft your fantasy football team today, who would be your ideal number one draft pick and why? And the reason I asked this, coming into this season in the preseason rankings, the guy that I would choose was not even close to the top. As a reminder, I'll read this quickly, the top 10 coming from Fantasy Pros coming into the season here. Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Ashton Genty, Christian McCaffrey. List goes on and on and on. The guy that I would choose, and I think this is obvious, Jonathan Taylor. He is having an insane year of football this year. He's the leader in fantasy football points. I think he's got like 15 touchdowns already, something insane like that. The guy is having an absolute MVP year so far. And he was ranked 21st coming into the season for fantasy football. So yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where we don't know shit. I'm just going to keep saying we don't know shit. But if you haven't watched Colts football yet this year, you should do yourself a favor and check it out because it is actually insane when you look at the stats that Jonathan Taylor has. I'm pulling his stats right now just to go through them. Rushing stats through 8 games, 850 yards. So he's averaging over 100 yards per game. He's also averaging 5.9 yards per carry. He has 12 rushing touchdowns. That's insane. 12 rushing touchdowns in 8 games. He's averaging 1.5 touchdowns per game rushing. And then when you look at receiving, he also has another 206 receiving yards and another 2 touchdowns receiving. So this guy's got 14 touchdowns right now through 8 games. Insane. If he can keep that pace, he's going to break some records. So that would be my pick. Let's see what everyone else has to say.
If I could redraft today with the number one pick in the NFL, I would definitely choose Emeka Egbuka. The guy is just going off. Tampa Bay is an injured team, and Baker Mayfield has limited weapons. I know they're kind of getting better, but Egbuka has just proven to be one of those guys. So I would definitely consider him a number one pick.
If I could redraft fantasy football today with the number one pick, I am taking Jonathan Taylor, JT. Dude's been balling. He's got a ton of touchdowns. Indianapolis Colts offense has been way better than I expected with no signs of slowing down. He's not just the number one running back in fantasy scoring right now. He's the number one overall player in fantasy scoring. So easy choice, Jonathan Taylor.
Redraft fantasy. Who am I taking number one overall and who is my midseason MVP? Same person. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor, my guy JT. He is crushing it. And I think he's got 14 touchdowns, which is what Saquon Barkley had all last year. And he's on pace for like 2,400 yards. It's crazy. So I give him the ball, even though they don't give MVPs to running backs.
All right, what is up, Scott, Deeb, and the rest of the Single Barrel Sports family? It is Andrew back here. Got a few questions thrown my way for the pod this week that I'm happy to chime in on. So let's start at the top. If I were redrafting a fantasy football league right now, who would be the number one pick? His name is Jonathan Taylor. And I think if you ask most fantasy folks, 9 out of 10 people would probably say JT. If you're doing a super flex league, I could, obviously got your Mahomes and your Hurts, Drake May coming out this year. But a standard 1 QB home league, you're taking Jonathan Taylor. He scored over 30 points in more than half his games so far this year. and he looks like a buzzsaw that cannot be slowed down by anything other than maybe a high ankle sprain, because that's got him in the past. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Okay, and now that we've heard from others, I want to hear from you. Who would you draft number 1 overall if you had the choice today in a brand new fantasy football league? We are going to move on now to our NFL team interesting facts, and this is going to be part 3. We've done 2 parts of this already in episodes 40 and 41, but basically we're breaking down one random fact from each team until we get through all 32. And so today we're going to start with the NFC, but we're going to actually finish NFC and then start the AFC a little bit. And the first team we're going to talk about today is the New York Giants. The New York Giants invented the spike celebration. So somewhere Rob Gronkowski needs to be saying thank you because he really, really made that celebration popular. But if you guys have never seen it, the spike is basically where you take the ball and just slam it into the ground. It's a very popular celebration, and it started with the New York Giants. Another random fact here, the Washington Commanders. They were the first NFL team that had a marching band. So prior to that, nobody had a marching band. So, and I know that we kind of take these things for granted, but this still happens. We see this in the college and the high school levels, and we see it still in the pro levels. And so there's a lot of things that bring football entertainment together, especially for that live stadium feel, that we often kind of forget or take for granted. But certainly the marching band is a big part of that, and that originated in Washington. One of the craziest things that I had to actually verify here, but the oldest team in the NFL is the Cardinals, believe it or not. The Cardinals actually originated in 1898 in Chicago, and they were called the Morgan Athletic Club. So they've gone through some changes over time, changes in name, changes in logo, changes in location. But they're actually the oldest football team in the NFL, starting in 1898. As crazy as that may sound. Carolina Panthers, fun fact about them. So they're in Charlotte, North Carolina, but they actually originally played in the Clemson Stadium. So they played in the college stadium at Clemson for the beginning of kind of their NFL story. And we see that sometimes with other sports. Like I know that the Coyotes were playing in Arizona State Stadium for a while. And it's very uncommon, though, for big NFL teams these days. I think they've all got their own stadium or they share a stadium with another team. So just a fun fact there that they didn't always have their own place to play football. All right, I got 2 more for you here. First one here is the Baltimore Ravens. They were actually named after Edgar Allan Poe's poem, The Raven. And so if you're ever curious about where team names come from, there's usually a lot of history. And with this one, in my own research, I've actually seen that there's a couple of things that kind of came up, but they all point towards Edgar Allan Poe, and the poem The Raven is a big reason why they were named the Ravens. And sticking with the naming theme here, my boys, the Buffalo Bills, were actually named after a U.S. soldier named Buffalo Bill Cody. So Buffalo Bill is what he went by, and the Buffalo Bills were actually named after him. So the more you know. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Again, just part 3 of our interesting facts, 1 for each team in the NFL. And we will have 6 more for you next week. Now, this week, we are going to have a very abbreviated halftime pour. I'm not sipping bourbon today. I've got too much going on and I'm too tired to be drinking. So our halftime pour this week is brought to you by Celsius. It's keeping me going here. I'm not going to talk about the tasting notes. We won't add it to our running list of bourbon tastings. But I do have a question. And my question is, who is your NFL midseason MVP? This is a tricky question to answer. There are a lot of people who probably could be considered for this, but typically this award goes to a quarterback. So we have to kind of keep that in mind. If you look up the odds, this is coming from DraftKings. Right now, Patrick Mahomes is the favorite, followed by Josh Allen, Drake May, Matt Stafford, Baker Mayfield, Daniel Jones. Some new names on there. I think that's really cool. We're not seeing the same names every year. However, the next one is Jonathan Taylor. He is plus 1,800. And I guess my question here is, how much does a running back have to do in order to win the MVP award in the NFL these days? Now, don't take it away. Patrick Mahomes is having a great year. Drake May is having a phenomenal year. Josh Allen is actually having what I would consider to be a down year for him, but still a good year. But what makes something an MVP? We've talked about this before. What makes somebody an MVP? Surely it's not just being a quarterback, but that is kind of how this award has gone recently. I'm going to say what I think it should be, and I think it should be Jonathan Taylor. We talked about him earlier, 14 touchdowns in 8 games. He's averaging over 100 yards in 8 games just rushing, another 200 and something passing or receiving. How do you not give it to someone like that? If he continues to score like this, if he puts up 28 touchdowns this year, would you not give him the MVP? I think you'd be crazy if you didn't. So we'll follow along with that. We'll see how his season ends. Certainly, I think that he should be higher up in the conversation, though. But I think it would be so cool to see like the young stud with young, maybe not alpha style weapons. Drake May, imagine if he won the MVP with that New England Patriots team this year. We'll see. Let me know who you think will win the MVP. We're halfway through the year.
Midseason MVP candidate right now for me is a guy that I said in the beginning of the year could finish in the top 3 for MVPs at the end of the year. It's my boy from Oregon, Justin Herbert. He's balling out there for the Chargers. They are tied for second in the division. I know the Chiefs are kind of making a run right now, but Herbert is looking crazy, and so he's my pick.
My mid-season MVP for the NFL is going to be Drake May. I went back and forth between a few guys on this one, but I think Drake May playing the most important position in football at quarterback, and he is leading a New England Patriots team to a division lead right now, and the numbers speak for themselves. He's been incredible. He's my MVP right now.
Who is my mid-season MVP for the NFL? All right, so halfway through the NFL season here. It'd be really fun to have a conversation about Jonathan Taylor, but we did that with Saquon last year. Jonathan Taylor's having a better year than Saquon was at this point, and we saw what happened with Saquon in that MVP voting. So it's a quarterback award. It's a waste of time to talk about anything else. So cut him right to it. Patrick Mahomes would be my MVP vote. I think he's the odds-on favorite today, if you check. He's had an awesome season. He's kept the Chiefs in it, and crazy. Give him some offensive weapons, and he looks like the Patrick Mahomes of old. So he's going to continue to produce there, and the Chiefs are looking scary this season. So I like Mahomes to get the MVP, especially after a break from a few years with Lamar and Allen kind of taking turns getting it. I think he's due to get another one added to the mantle there.
All right, moving into our community call-outs here. Some of the people who have engaged with us on social media this week. So first of all, with TikTok, thank you to Abraham Alonzo Carr and Jake Manzo Sales for commenting about potential trades for Jamar Chase in fantasy football. I think the more that we see these past couple of weeks go by, maybe we don't want to trade Jamar Chase. I didn't think we should after 2 weeks ago, and I certainly still don't think we should today. And then another one here, we had a conversation about maybe who might make the NBA Finals. I talked about how poetic it might be to see the Cavs take down the Lakers and probably LeBron's last year. And shout out to T Mills for saying, brother, the Lakers won't even make the playoffs. So we might not get to see our poetic ending here, but it's a fun hypothetical to think about. So again, thank you for those who engage with us on social media. Please continue to do that. If you've never commented on one of our posts before, I encourage you to. We love to have conversations and just kind of talk ball with people. For our single barrel picks, we're going to do this differently this week. Usually Deeb and I kind of go back and forth, or if we have some guests on here, we kind of just ask them for their picks. But this time around, with just me being on here, I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen, and then we're going to have some guests kind of submit their predictions as well. So we're going to start with college game day, college football. And if you listened to last week's episode, Deeb and I actually both agreed on all 4 of our big games, and we both went 4-0 against the spread. So very good week in college football last week, kind of redeeming ourselves there. I have struggled in particular. He's doing okay, but really good week for us last week. This week, the big games. First one I want to talk about here. Number 9 Vanderbilt is going to number 20 Texas. Texas is a 1.5-point favorite. Not really sure what Arch Manning's status is. He had a concussion last week. Texas has looked better recently, but man, they have not looked consistent from the beginning of the year. With it only being a 1.5 points, it's really kind of a pick 'em. But I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. I think they're just a better team right now. Maybe not forever, but for right now, I think they're a better football team, even on the road. Let's see what everyone else thinks.
Vanderbilt travels to Texas this week, where they are the betting underdog. Give me Vanderbilt on the road, proving that they are the real team this year.
College picks, I will take Vandy to cover on the road.
Right, so we're going with Vanderbilt or Texas. Give me Vandy. I think Arch is kind of overrated.
College picks, we got number 9 Vanderbilt heading to Austin to take on the Longhorns. Texas favored by 1.5 points. I will take Vandy on the road, getting that 1.5 points. I like the Commodores, and Texas gave up a lot of points to, was it Mississippi State last week? So the defense is looking a little suspect. I don't trust Arch Manning. Kind of talked about it last time. Give me Vandy.
Okay, there you have it. Let's move on to game number 2. Number 19 Oklahoma playing against number 14 Tennessee. This game is at Tennessee, and they are the 3.5-point favorites here. And I'm going to have to go with the favorites here. I think Oklahoma is still a decent team. I think they've had some struggles since John Mateer's injury, and even after he came back. Give me Tennessee minus 3.5. Let's see what everyone else thinks.
This one's going to be a tough one. John Mateer and the Sooners are going to go into Tennessee and take a loss. Give me Tennessee this week.
Oklahoma and Tennessee. Give me Tennessee. I think Tennessee's a little spicy.
I'm going to actually take Oklahoma to cover on the road.
Next, we got number 19, Oklahoma, going to play number 14, Tennessee. Tennessee given 3.5. I'm still going to take the home team here, though. It's a lot. I like the Tennessee offense. I'm not scared by that 3.5 at home. I feel like it should be a bigger number.
All right, in our last college football game that we're going to talk about this week, we have number 17, Cincinnati, going to Utah. Utah, number 24. Utah is a 9.5-point favorite at home, despite being the lower-ranked team here. Now, I think Utah wins this game, but I think this Cincinnati team's got some fire in them. I think 9.5 is too many points for me to give up, so I'm going to take Cincinnati because of the spread. Let's see what everyone else says.
Cincinnati is a great team, but Utah is just a little bit too much. I don't like the odds, though, negative 9.5 for Utah, so give me Cincinnati with the betting odds.
Cincinnati and Utah. I kind of like the Utes, so give me the Utes on that one.
I'm going to take Cincinnati to cover on the road. I like the Road Dogs this week.
Last game for college, we got number 17, Cincy, going to number 24, Utah. Utah given 9.5 at home. It's a bigger number. I'm still going to take the home team in Utah there.
Okay, and that is our college football slate here. Let me know what you think and who you agree with, and let's move on to the NFL. We've got 3 more games to get through here. So NFL, 3 more games. We have the Colts going on the road to take on the Steelers. Again, Colts 7-1, best record in football. They're minus 3.5 points playing against Pittsburgh. And I just got to ride the wave here. I'm going to take the Colts. I'm not going to bet against them until they make me bet against them. So give me the Colts, and let's see what everyone else says.
We got the Colts, road favorite, given 3.5 at Pittsburgh. Tough to not take the home dog in a lot of cases, but I'm going to ride with the Colts.
The Colts and the Steelers. So I'm rocking with the Colts. I think they're dynamite, so it's got to be the Colts with the points.
Let's go Colts. Going to take care of business against the Steelers. Colts are rolling. I never thought that I would be saying this about the Colts, but they look like a Super Bowl contender, and they're getting stuff done. The offense appears to be unstoppable.
The Colts are the real deal. I would have never have said that in the beginning of the year. Give me the Colts. They're going to take care of business at Pittsburgh.
Game number 2, got the Broncos at the Texans. This one was crazy for me. The Texans at home are minus 1.5, so they're expected to win. I think the Broncos look like a freight train. The Texans have not had consistent offense all year, and the Broncos have an amazing defense. I am definitely going to go with the Broncos, even though they're on the road here. Let's see what the guys say.
Next up, we got the Broncos going to Houston, taking on a semi-resurgent CJ Stroud and company. Texans giving 1.5 at home, so the Broncos are getting points. I'm going to take Denver. I'm not afraid of that Texans defense enough to not think the Broncos can come in and win by more than that. So I'll take Broncos getting points.
Broncos and Texans. I think the Broncos are one of the better teams in the AFC, so going to go Broncos.
Broncos at Texans. I'm actually going to take the Texans at home to cover. I think this one could be a close game. 2 very good defenses here. I think it's really going to come down to which team can put points on the board, and I think the Texans at home get it done in a close one.
And we have the Broncos at the Texans, who are struggling, and it sucks. But give me the Broncos. Bo Nix and the boys are going to take care of business as they have been for most of the year.
Okay, and our game of the week feels like it's an AFC championship game damn near every year. We've got the Chiefs going on the road to Buffalo, playing against the Bills. And this is a treat. If you only watch one game of football this week, watch the Chiefs and the Bills. It will be a good game. It's a guarantee. Chiefs are 1.5-point favorites on the road. I love the Bills. I want the Bills to win the Super Bowl. but I'm going to take the hot hand right now. It's only 1.5 points. I think the Chiefs will probably win this football game as much as I don't want them to. They have looked very good and only looking better each week. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. Let's see what others have to say.
Chiefs giving 1.5 at Buffalo. So we got another home dog, 2 home dogs on the slate here. I'm still going to take the Chiefs. I like what they're looking like. I like how they're building. I like the defense. Offense is healthy. The Bills got a lack of weapons on that side. You got Josh Allen and James Cook, and then you're just hoping that they piece together some stuff. Nobody else really scares me there. I don't trust the Bills' defense. I think Patrick goes into Buffalo and reminds them who he is. So give me the Chiefs.
I think that the Chiefs are really rolling, and they're going to be tough to stop, so give me the Chiefs.
Chiefs at Bills. Another game that I expect to be close. 2 very good teams, potentially AFC championship type game here. The Chiefs have gotten the better of Josh Allen when it comes to the playoffs, but Josh Allen does just fine during the regular season, and really Josh Allen does fine in the playoffs as well. Just the Bills defense hasn't been able to stop the Chiefs, but I'm going to say that they do stop them this weekend and that the Bills cover at home.
Bills are a good team, but their defense is struggling, and the Chiefs are just getting hot, as I predicted they would, and make a playoff run. So give me the Chiefs defeating the Bills this week. Cheers.
Okay, there you have it. That is our single barrel picks. 3 college games, 3 NFL games. Let us know what you agree with. Let us know what you don't agree with. And we will see how these games shake out. But let's hope for a good week of football. We've had such good football so far this year. A lot of unpredictable finishes. And it's just been a treat to spend Saturdays and Sundays being able to catch some of these games. And with that, my friends, we are at our last call. So last call means we're just going to wrap this up just like at the bar and send you on your way. So let me say thank you if you've made it this far into the video. This is an unorthodox way to do the podcast. It's the first time that I have ever recorded by myself here. I hope that it's gone okay. Try to do decent pacing here. But thank you all for following our journey. Thank you to those who have helped me with this video, who have contributed some picks and predictions. And I just want to say, guys, if you've never checked out our social media, please do. We always want to engage with new people. We just love talking sports. And if you get nothing else out of this video today, I hope you just hear that we are open to engage in discussions, even when you disagree with us. So tell us what you think we got wrong, and we'll talk about it. Have a great weekend, sports fans. I will be at the beach. Catch you next week. Peace.